We're going to talk fast, try to get a lot of questions in, both from between us and from all of you. I want to sort of set some ground rules. I think our topic here for the last panel really is wonderful in summing up what we've heard today. And I want to say a couple things what we heard, and I think it will set the tone for what we're going to talk about. One is change is happening faster than our institutions are changing in the world. So whether it's technology or whatever is changing more quickly. We're all too patient with our institutions. We need to kick the door down, make the changes happen in a more rapid way. The process, one of the reasons change happens so slowly is the process is a safe place. We all, in one way or another, are afraid of change. And the other thing, I thought the common theme we've heard all today is that we're crying out for a humanity, the kind of scale where it's livable, whether it's the playgrounds or a waterfront. We're looking for humanity, and that really is the topic of our conversation, which is the intersection of commerce and culture. How people come together, can work, live in high-density developments, and at the same time have a sense of neighborhood, a community, and humanity to be able to enjoy themselves and not get lost in large soulless buildings that have no place. And so I think that's our topic. And with that, KK, you're first up. You have a small PowerPoint. Why don't you start?
This topic I try to introduce to you is a little bit out of place. It is in a more macro scale. Well, when you talk about when the organizers approached me talking about, said one of the themes of this symposium is about the Greater Bay Area, then I would like to try to share with you some of my, my views on the Greater Bay Area. And let us do a polling. Actually, when the development plan for the Greater Bay Area published, actually how many of you here have really read the document? Please show your hands. Wow, you are pretty honest. Not many. Well, here is the development plan about the strategic positioning of the GBA. I think you can read faster than I talk to you. And then for Hong Kong, therefore together with the other three cities, that's the Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Hong Kong, and Macau. They are the four growth engines. And they're talking about, you know, and that's the role of Hong Kong, the development plan sets down. And actually, that means that Hong Kong should perform as GBA's CBD. And then we have a question, are we ready for that? So let us go back to the Hong Kong strategic plan, the Hong Kong 2030 Plus. That is the strategic plan published before my retirement from the post of Director of Planning. I do not want to repeat it, but that's the spatial framework we proposed. And actually, we are talking about one core metropolitan business core that we need to sustain it. And two strategic growth areas, that is the East Lantau metropolis and the new town in NT North. And three development axes, and we need to connect all this with strategic supporting transport infrastructures. So, if Hong Kong should sustain our position as CBD of the Greater Bay Area, then let us look at what we are having in our existing CBD. So CBD1, the normal core, then you can find that, you know, we are running out of a prime site. There are some coming in the pipeline, but you can count them all with your fingers. And another problem is there are a large number of Grade B, Grade C office buildings, and they are in fragmented ownership. So renewal of these business buildings are actually a big challenge. And then CBD2, we transform the conventional industrial area into new business area. And that is mentioned by some of the real estate players that is so far, that's almost the largest transformation project in the world. But we know that that will take a long time. That will take a long time. And even though there will be huge potential, but the coexist of industrial use and business use will coexist for a very, very long time. And then that will create a very uncomfortable external environments. But in the past 10 years, and in the next 10 years, I would say these areas, this CBD2, will be the main source of production of new business buildings. And then we have the CBD2 in the Hong Kong 2030 Plus. We name it as East Lantau Metropolis, and then the chief executive in his policy address enlarged the concept and call it Lantau tomorrow, and that will be our new CBD 3. Well, apart from that, what I want to propose is we need another CBD. This is what I call the anti-north CBD. At the present moment, there is a very, very unbalanced flow of people, morning from north to south, and then evening from south to north. That makes our whole transportation system very unsustainable. And the increase of population in the northern part of the new territories already planted, that will happen. And then we need to make our effort, to increase jobs, to improve the spatial distribution of our homes and jobs. And that's why we come to the Northern Economic Belt. We propose under the Hong Kong 2030 Plus, one of the development axes. And within this economic belt, there is a huge development potential, taking the advantage of the increasing economic interaction between Hong Kong and Shenzhen, and thus the job creation capacity. And within this Northern Economic Belt, there's a new development area called Hong Shui Kiu, and we are going to have a new railway station built there along the West Rail, and that is a place which I advocate that we need to upgrade it as our CBD ND2 and the North. And there is a potential to develop a rail link between this Hong Shui Kiu station and the Qinghai station in Shenzhen, and then that will help our future CBD ND North to grow and to enhance its capacity of job creation. In our plan, by the side of the future new Hong Shui Kiu station, there's a huge railway station bazaar, and that has a big area of almost 9 hectares. And under that, and then we have reserved this area for the development possibly the development of an underground railway station for this future link. And then that's the dynamics of these 4 CBD. So CBD1, that will be the CBD core of Hong Kong for the highest tier of international financial and business services. And CBD2, that is flourishing and with diversified business services. And the important thing is it provides large number of relatively affordable economic accommodation. And CBD3, that will be our new CBD, totally built on reclamation, that will connect between CBD1 and our double gateway, that's the bridge control island and our airport. And then that is a global outreaching, and that will be, and the planning and development of this will be driven by smart technology. And then the CBD anti-north, that will capitalizing its economic potential between the interaction between Hong Kong and Shenzhen for its job creation capacity, and that will help us, to better balance our spatial distribution of homes and jobs. So that is what I would share with you. Thank you.
Thank you.
5 minutes.
Thank you. So to get to the other panelists, our topic is the intersection of commerce and culture. What does that mean to you?
Oh, wow. You're going to throw that to me?
I'm going to throw it at you. What
Well,
does that mean to you? After hearing all day today what we've been talking about,
well,
in the presentation that KK just did.
So I'm the designer, I guess, on the panel. So
That's why I ask you.
That's great.
You're the designer.
So here's
you
what
got to bring them together.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So what I want to say is that, a plug for ULI and for all of you. What a fantastic audience. And only ULI brings this caliber of people together. So thank you all for sticking it out. And that's important because I think what we heard over the last few days is that you are all part of the design process. We are partners in value creation. And it's very, very important right now because we know that more people are moving to our cities. We know that, take this project. I think if you abstracted Taekwon to a spreadsheet and went to a lender, they'd say, you're crazy, right? We all know that pressure when we go to make deals because it's all about quality. And quality doesn't show up in the quants, right? It's about people, people, people. It used to be location, location, location. It's people, people, people. And I think all of you will agree with that sentiment that people, if we've learned anything, want choice, and they want experiences, and they want livability. And, I think our biggest challenge, especially as we look at these CBDs that KK outlined, is, the tension between choice and diversity and inclusivity that could be at odds with economies of scale and efficiencies in the process. And so, we have to fight back those forces and make sure that we pay attention to the real experience of being in the city. I don't know if I answered your question.
Well, sort of, but let me we're going to keep you on the spot, okay? You're the designer here. But Dawn, also the challenge, you're building buildings. Are you beginning to see a significant change in the kind of buildings you're building because it's now not location, location, location. It's also people, people, people. The millennials particularly are making choices about where they want to live and work by the quality of the place, not because necessarily the jobs. We're seeing it all over the world.
Yeah, and I think we've heard that a few times today. It's not just the hardware, it's the software.
Richard Florida wrote a book about it a few years ago. But are you building buildings in a different kind of way, though?
We are. We're sort of increasing the amenity provision within our buildings, but also we're conscious that we just can't develop buildings in isolation and people will come. We need to give them the confidence that if they do move to sort of places like Taikoo Place, that their staff are going to be engaged, productive, and happy. And so it's been a huge master plan in terms of sort of the retail provision, the amenity provision. And just coming back to your question on commerce and culture, part of that amenity provision, particularly in Taikoo Place, is artistry, which was a revenue-producing premises that we gave over to the arts. And it's a venue for the visual and performing arts. And it's part of engaging not just with our tenant base, but the surrounding community as well. So we can host events free of charge for the surrounding community. Because, we see it very important in terms of being a commercial hub, providing amenities and being able to host events that breathe life into the area outside of normal business hours. And that's not just during the weekdays, that's also on the weekends as well, where we host a sort of farmers market which allows local farmers to bring organic produce as well as F&B operators to test Taikoo Place as a location, but also gives us an opportunity to look at the operators that are trending and very desirable. So, it means that it's a two-way sort of street where we can then potentially provide them premises to do their startups and pop-ups in Taikoo Place.
So you're creating spontaneous places is what you're doing.
Correct, yeah.
And William, are you seeing this in your markets also?
Yeah, my name is William Robinson. I'm a lawyer, and I'm embarrassed. And I'll tell you why I'm embarrassed. Because
don't ask me about lawyers.
I've clearly
right?
messed up, KK, because I'm a partner, I'm the managing partner here in Hong Kong for Freshfields, Bruckhaus, Deringer. We've been around for 275 years. We have 3,500 lawyers around the world, and we're one of the most profitable law firms in the world. But we are not in CBD 1.
Where are you located?
I was enticed by this man here. So we moved to Quarry Bay in December 2017. So I'm speaking from a tenant's perspective.
That's right. That's what I'm asking.
And I'm speaking
about.
from a perspective of someone who had to go through a decision-making process
and
as to whether we left.
For where your
CBD1.
employees want to live is what you're. That's it.
Live and work.
Yeah, right.
And so, obviously, as lawyers, we're a people business. Clearly, a people business. We produce a vast amount of paper, And we sometimes produce a few genius ideas, but most of the time we're a people business, trying to get things done for people. And what I need to do as a manager of my business is to ensure that we're inspiring and getting the best out of a team of highly educated and sometimes very precious lawyers. And I have to provide an environment in which they feel innovative and they feel sustained in what they can do. And so when I was faced with the challenge of deciding where we should have our offices about 2 years ago, should we stay in CBD, in 2 Exchange Square, where we had been for 30 years, or should we do something different? The key drivers for that, for me, were firstly, we must remain as one team, because I'm absolutely insistent that our legal team, not only all the lawyers, but also the business services, stay as one team.
Right.
And that, for me, was really important. But that requires space. The second point was that, as I've said, I needed an environment that inspired lawyers. We can be a boring lot, so we need something to inspire us, so we need bloody good environments. And the third was that, as a firm, we have committed to responsible business principles, both sustainability, but also to our community and to our environment. And moving to Taikoo was, I think now, a masterstroke. At the time, I could well have been pilloried. I wasn't. It's been held in the legal sector as a truly successful, innovative move, because we have been able to engage with our community and our environment in a way that we frankly couldn't in Central. It's quite difficult to get that engaged with that many bankers. And so we can really engage with our community. We have pro bono, we have community service activities, we have sports clubs for the weekends and the evenings. We can engage with that community in a way we haven't previously. And so what we have done is to perhaps break the mold of the best and leading international firms being in Central. But I think we have diversified and showed to the legal profession at least a different way forward of how to inspire our people. And that to me is how, as it were, real estate and culture come together.
Well, and KK, I want to pick up what he just said, is that in the terms of you're doing CB1, CB2, I hear office buildings. I don't hear mixed-use residential, which if you want to deal with the congestion, get people to live close so they can walk to work. That's the best solution, okay? And that's and you don't see that. I'm wondering how many, William, I want you to jump in on this. How many of your employees are now sort of walking or riding bikes to work because they don't have to, because they can live close enough?
There have been two effects. Firstly, we have seen more people with a shorter commute.
Right.
Secondly, we have seen a large number of our lawyers move towards Taikoo, Quarry Bay, and so on. And it's a surprising number. So that is changing the demographics. It's changing.
In terms of your big picture design, are you pulling in that residential?
Right. Why you didn't hear about mixed use? Because I was only given 5 minutes. Actually, what my friends have said is really important. First of all, we talk about people, the working environment.
Right.
First, you want to keep your colleagues under one roof. Right. And that's a big challenge in CBD1, all right? It is really not easy to you to rent a premises which can be within one building and then accommodate your big firms with several hundred of lawyers. Second, if you recall, the previous panel talking about sharing with us, all their projects are actually within CBD1 and CBD2. All right. For Marissa's project, they are small pockets within CBD1, many in Tsim Sha Tsui, Yau Jin Wang. They are CBD1. They are obsolete areas, and that is the only small public space remain, and then we need to make the best use out of it to improve the livability of the people. And Marcus tried to make great efforts to turn a road into public space, which can be used by ordinary people, and that's a great effort. And I'm grateful that Marcus always make my quotation in his slide, and I really believe that. And for the CBD2, in our transformation of the industrial area into a new office building, actually, the government set up an office called Energizing Kowloon East Office. And fortunately, I was the founding head of that office. And the first thing we do is to enhance the quality of the public space. To make, I invented 2 words. All right, we need to make the place walkable, sittable, and I found a dictionary, there's no one word sittable, but if I say sittable, then it's easy to understand. And the third is stayable. I also look into a dictionary, there's no such word, but stayable, people tend to understand. All right, after your office work, you can stay in that place. And all this relate to human behavior, their cultural link, with the place where they make a living. And if our CBD cannot be walkable, cannot be sittable, cannot be stayable, then that would not be a successful CBD. And in our CBD1, because of the congested environment, we are really facing this challenge. And that's why a lot of friends, like Lead 8, all right, try to transform the waterfront area. Most of the waterfront area is actually within CBD1 and CBD2 into, public space people will enjoy, and then they would love, to work there, be, inspired with genius and smart ideas in their working. And my further deliberation exceeds 5 minutes, all right? And really that is commerce and culture. So when we talk about CBD, it is not only concerned about economic development, but also cultural development. And Tai Kwun is actually located in CBD1.
So let's switch a little bit and say, so Hong Kong is facing this future of both opportunity and challenge. Is it going to be the sort of the capital of the new region? Or is it in competition with other cities in that region? Is that, I hear the rhetoric of Hong Kong being essentially the capital. The same battle goes on if you look at New York City. New York City encompasses really 3 states. And Washington, D.C. is 3 states that all are competing with each other all the time, which is competing so it undercuts the ability of it to do what it could do in terms of really a better places. You're now beginning to face that same challenge, it seems to me. And how does that play out as you look at over the next 10 or 15 years of how it shakes out in the economy here? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I used to describe Hong Kong as the world's gateway to China, and I think now that role has kind of reversed, and it's kind of China's gateway to the world. And I think with the GBA blueprint, it really can position Hong Kong as a financial center for the Greater Bay Area.
Is it ready for that?
Is it ready?
I
think Hong Kong is, in terms of rule of law, in terms of the financial infrastructure. But what I see is places like Shenzhen becoming more the technical hub, Macau the sort of entertainment hub, right. And that sort of development access going up to sort of Guangzhou. I think they've got a big job ahead of them in terms of making sure that the sum is more than the parts. But I'm convinced with the greater integration, particularly with the free movement of people and capital, I can see that they're going to really achieve success.
But I'm thinking go ahead.
Yeah, I was just saying, coming back to your point about Hong Kong and this, CBD2 and other CBDs, it's evolving like other financial centres around the world. If you look at London, for existence, Canary Wharf developed out of a shortage of prime sites or the ability to assemble sites in the city. Right. And so therefore, we used to be compared with Canary Wharf, and it concerned us initially because of the sort of negative connotations associated with moving to Canary Wharf, with the lack of transportational connectivity, the lack of ambience, the lack of retail provision, etc. But now look at what it's achieved today. It's transformed the London office landscape. And, I think Island East and Taikoo Place is going to transform the Hong Kong landscape in creating a credible alternative to Central, which is largely supply constrained.
I think we got to be careful when we look outside of the Hong Kong center
Right.
at the speed and the time frame that we're trying to build these other cities. They're going really fast. And, you know, it's going to be really hard in a macro way to get that granular quality that speaks to community, that speaks to walkability. Right. And there, you know, the roadmap involves a lot of roads. You know, it's really
Big
automobile centric,
right.
You know, and,
right.
you know, you're not going to have grand mixing chambers for people to interact socially if they have to cross an 80-meter thoroughfare. So we've got to be really mindful of, you know, the speed now and the expectation of efficiency, that everything gets sort of smoothed out. And it's the rough bits that make an urban environment kind of intriguing. And we know that people need places for discovery and inspiration and definitely community. You know, our research has said that it's not just experiencing great things for yourself or your family, but it's that experience you share with the people around you.
Well, that potentially gets lost in the very dense development, right?
I mean, we're talking about doing like 10 million people
Right.
in 2 years.
Well, I'm also, is there differences in laws and between China and Hong Kong? A few, right, Mr. Lawyer? So
How long have we got?
how does that integrate?
With difficulty.
When you're talking about Hong Kong essentially being the capital of this new city-state, how do you integrate? This is Washington, D.C. and New York. How do you integrate the laws of Maryland, D.C. and Virginia? And you face the same kind of challenges, right?
A bit more than that, I think.
Okay.
I mean, this is a huge question for Hong Kong going forward, which is, can it protect its unique legal position, which provides the legal platform for the financial platform to be the gateway to the rest of the world, as Don has said.
That's one of the challenges.
That is a huge challenge. To what extent can the rule of law and the independence of the Hong Kong legal system be maintained? And however many buildings we put up, that's not going to achieve that objective. But frankly, the success for all of you in this room of ensuring that Hong Kong maintains itself as being the most desirable place to put real estate, to build businesses, is going to depend upon that. So there's my plea. So please come and support us.
So we need lawyers, is what you're saying.
Well, you don't necessarily need lots of lawyers, but you need a really good independent legal system.
So let's open to questions. Anybody have any questions for this very animated group here?
Yeah, I think quality of life is of paramount importance for Hong Kong. In our strategic plan for Hong Kong 2030 plus, you know, we have 3 broad planning principles. The first planning principle is, you know, to plan and develop a livable city, a high-density livable city. And that is really, you know, the quality of living ranked the first. Of course, when you talk about quality of living, when you talk about livability, one important thing is you can make a decent living, you know, in this place. If you cannot get a decent job, then probably you need to leave. All right, so
Okay, other comments?
Yeah, no, I was just saying that, you know, our ethos in terms of development and regentrification is really to kind of try and transform the area but retain the character. So, you know, heritage plays a large part in our redevelopment, particularly when we keep sort of streets more sort of walkable, penetratable. And then what we do is we try and buy up sort of ground floor units to give to businesses that have been in the local community for a long time to provide that sort of tenant mix. And as I say, provide a sort of tenant mix that just doesn't serve the tenant community, but it serves the wider community in Quarry Bay as well. So it's really about trying to really, as I say, retain the character of the place. And we've done that around 3 Pacific Place in Wan Chai as well, with some of the upgrading of the public space in Wan Chai.
And Peter, you're designing some of these places. Is that a prime focus for you?
Well, yeah, and I mean, I'm pleased to say that when we work with these great developers, you know, that they are not pushing for every ounce of return, because they know that seeding some of these businesses in the community is ultimately going to extend the return of the full asset over the life cycle. So, you know, I think that's good.
Actually, earlier this year, I make a presentation in Shenzhen talking about this Greater Bay area. I make 3 advocacy. The third advocacy is that we may need to consider, the cooperation among Hong Kong and Shenzhen and perhaps Guangzhou to jointly relocate our container terminus facilities to the outer sea of Pearl River Delta, because all these existing container terminals will be facing very strong pushing effect from our urbanization process. So if we can make some sort of reclamation outside in the outer sea of Pearl River Delta, then probably we may help us to resolve this problem. And that will also help us because the container vessels are getting bigger and bigger, and it is more difficult for them to enter into the relatively shallow water of the Pearl River, estuary. So this is another advocacy. If of course ULI would have interest to listen to my advocacy, then we can organize another occasion for that.
We are running out of time very quickly. Why don't we start, Peter? I'll put you on the spot. If you were the czar of Hong Kong and you could make some big changes very quickly, what are the 1 or 2 things you would do that you think make Hong Kong a more livable place?
Well, I just want to say, like Raymond said, when I land in Hong Kong, I'm really excited to be home, and I think it's great. And I know there are problems, and DVRC certainly is one of them. But I guess I'm in the camp of smoother approvals and less bureaucracy, and
So you'd make things move quickly.
Oh, gotta go.
And he's the opposite of you. You want it to be long and complicated, right?
Have you been reading my timesheets?
What's the 1 or 2 things living here that you would make it more livable for you?
I'm not going to comment on more livable, but I think the decentralization away from central is absolutely essential for Hong Kong to thrive, because the amount of business that we all want to see happening here in Hong Kong can't exist in the tiny area around central. So projects such as CBD2, Quarry Bay are absolutely essential if this city is going to flourish in the future. The one thing I would pick up is I would like to see equal quality of areas around Hong Kong, rather than being a perception of only the brightest and the best appear in Old Central and everyone else is in different places. Right. I think you need to create an area where the brightest and the best can flourish in the entire area. So I very much support the idea of a wider one CBD.
I suppose for me it would be sort of improving urban regeneration, improving the efficiency, so getting rid of a lot of the bureaucracy. I would like to see sort of that loop around the harbour. I really enjoyed that. But then, of course, facilitating accessibility to the harbour front.
My CBD advocacy is actually, concerned very much about the spatial relationship between people and their jobs. All right, CBD1, we know that is really in the heart. And CBD2, actually, it is geographically in the middle area of 2 million population. Kowloon East, Tseung Kwan O, and Hong Kong East. All right, and then CBD3, we also have mixed use, commercial and residential, and CBD anti-loft is also help, people living in the northern part of the new territory have a proximity to their jobs. And going back to the livability and quality of living, not only Hong Kong should become more livable, the whole Greater Bay Area should become more livable. And there are a lot of efforts we need to make. I advocate that we need to create a livable coastline for the whole Greater Bay Area. And the total length can be several hundred kilometers in length. So what we propose is about 23 kilometers, all right, times 10 or more. So a lot of work that we can endeavor.
So we've covered a lot of ground, a lot of ideas. Thank you. You've been a wonderful audience. The fact that you've all stayed for this is remarkable. Thank you.
Thank you.